everybody. How we doing? Hello, everybody out there in Facebook land.
Facebook land, forget me.
Okay. So welcome to our February Buttons and Tabs class. And I don't think that we've ever done a February Buttons and Tabs class on February 29th. And since we always do them on Saturdays, I don't know that we'll ever do one again. So this may be the one and only Buttons and Tabs class on February 29th. So welcome. So obviously, I try to start these lessons out the same way every time I do them, for the benefit of those of you that have never been to one before, but as well as those of you that have, that just you kind of know the ground rules here, which there pretty much aren't any. I don't have a song to hand you out today. I don't necessarily have something in particular that I plan on going over. I did receive an email last night asking me about something that someone did on their organ at home, and they could not figure out how they did it, and they couldn't do it again. And I thought it was very interesting. It took me a few minutes to try to replicate what they did. So I'll at least start with that. And that was from Joe out in, I believe, Arizona. So Joe, if you're watching, I'm going to answer your question in just a moment. But otherwise, as I say every time I do one of these lessons, they are designed to be self-defeating. They are designed for me to announce that I'm going to do a class on buttons, and then nobody shows up because everybody knows exactly how their instrument works from top to bottom. Yeah. And that has not happened in 20 years. So until it does, we will just keep on doing them and answer questions as they come about. So back to the question that I was emailed, and then I'll open the floor up to questions that you all may have. Their question was in regards to using the glide. Now, every instrument, every Lowrey has a glide. Every clavinova also has the ability to glide, although on the clavinovas, you would have to assign it to one of your pedals down there on the floor. On the Lowrys, obviously, it's a switch connected to your volume. And their question was, they somehow got the piano to glide and couldn't figure out how. And now, that's not too surprising on the Yamahas, because the Yamahas will let you do that. If you put the glide on, they do not make any distinction with it being able to glide. And the Lowrys are a little bit different. The Lowrys, in a general sense, need to be utilizing a sound that can actually do it in order for the glide to work. And that's often an issue for students that are not aware of that. They'll pick the piano, they'll pick an organ sound, they'll pick the vibes, and they'll try to go and use that little foot switch, and it doesn't work. Or if it works in a different capacity, which would be sustained, because that pedal, if you look in your owner's manual, it says glide/sustain. So if it doesn't do one, it usually does the other. Okay. So their question again was, I'm getting my piano, or I got my piano to glide, and I don't remember how I did it, and I can't do it again. All right. Now, before I go over that, let's just make sure that we're clear as to how to glide in the first place. So I usually use 3 letters when I'm explaining to students how to glide: G, N, and R. The G, as you can imagine, stands for glide. The N stands for note. And the R stands for release. Okay? Now, this is the order in which you would want to utilize the glide in order for it to sound right. Now, some of you here today got the song this week, Sleepwalk by Santo and Johnny, and there are a ton of glides in that song. So I'm sure that you've gotten some practice with that. But Hawaiian songs, some big band songs, if you're using things like the trombone, country songs, obviously, with the fiddle and the country guitar, these are all styles of music which will often utilize the glide. So again, provided that you are using an instrument that can glide, you choose that particular sound, and let's say we put the country guitar on. Now here's the guitar. Now when I get to the note that I want to use the glide with, usually in our music, the music that I hand to you, there's a little star over the note. Okay? So maybe I should have put it there because it's over the note. But basically, what you want to do when you get to that note, so whatever the note is, you see a little star above it, the first thing that you want to do is hit that glide. Before you even hit the note, you want to hit the glide. Now when you hit the glide, before you hit the note, what's going to happen?
Nothing.
Nothing. Nothing. It's off, it's on. It's off, it's on. Nothing. Okay? Now, when I hit the note, what you're going to notice is that the note itself is going to sound incorrect. Because the way that the glide is naturally set, at least on the Lowrys, is when you push that switch over, it drops the pitch of the note by how much?
Half a step.
A half a step, meaning one key to the left. All right? So if I'm playing a G and I hit the switch, I'm going to hear a what?
F sharp.
F sharp or G flat. Okay? If I play a D and I hit the switch, what am I going to hear?
E flat.
D flat or C sharp. If I play a C, what am I going to hear?
B.
B.
Ah, very good. You guys are awake today. Good. Because there's no black key in between the C and the B. All right. So, I get to that particular note. Now, let me see. Now, do you notice what I did there? I put the foot to the left before I hit the note. Went to hit the note. Press the glide. I hit the key. And you let your foot off of the glide, which allows it to bend back up so that it ends sounding right. Okay? It starts sounding wrong, and it ends sounding right. Okay? And it doesn't really matter what song you play it with. You can play King of the Road if you want. Now, this is my next note, but I want to glide. Now, if I hit the note first, and then I hit the glide, it's going to sound right at first, and it's going to sound wrong afterwards. And that's the exact opposite thing that I want. I don't want to do this. Okay? That's not what we're looking for. We're looking for it to, at first, sound incorrect, and then back up to where it sounds correct. Yes, Mark?
What controls the speed of the actual gliding back up? The tempo?
So, no. The glide on most instruments are preset, meaning how long it takes to get up and down. But on some of the Lowrys and actually the CVP Clavinovas, you can decide not only how far it glides, but how long it takes to glide down and how long it takes to glide back up. Okay? But in a general sense, they're preset. Okay? Now, one thing that you want to keep in mind about this glide is that it does not affect the left hand. It does not affect the left hand at all. If I'm playing a chord, put the easy button on here for a moment. I'm going to put my foot over. Take it off. Put it over. Take it off. Put it over. It doesn't do anything to the left hand. Okay? And that is an important distinction to make, because even if you're not looking to use the glide, there's always that possibility that your foot hits that switch without you recognizing it or realizing it, and you thinking that your instrument is broken, or you think that somehow you just became a lot worse of a player than you were the day before. Okay? Because if my foot is on that switch and I don't realize it and I put a beat on, I don't notice anything. The beat sounds fine. I could use an introduction if I wanted. My foot's on that glide. You can't tell. I can take it off. Doesn't do anything. I put it back on. But listen to what happens when I start to play the notes. Now, if that sounds good to you, see me before you leave. Okay? Because we got some practicing to do. All right? What was happening was every note I played sounded like the key to the left of the one that I was playing. So I played all the right notes there, but they sounded incorrect. Okay? So again, what I'm looking to do is I'm looking to hit the glide, hit the note, and then while I'm holding the note down, let go of the foot. So it's the glide, the note, release the foot, and allow that note to bend back up where it needs to be. Okay? Now back to his question. His question was in regards to him somehow figuring out how to glide on the piano on a Lowry. All right? And it took me a couple minutes to figure this out myself. How do I do that? Now he's playing on an Inspire, so I was happy to know that because I have one. So I was able to kind of figure it out myself and probably have a fairly good idea. So here's what I think you did. Okay? If you put, I will go with the country, I guess. We'll put a country rhythm on. And what he must have inadvertently done is put two sounds on the top keyboard here. One that can glide and one that couldn't. So let's say he put the guitar on. And then to the guitar, on that top keyboard, he added the piano. So here is, what did that do that there? That should have done that. There we go. Now, right now, there's a piano and a guitar. Now, what's likely the case that he did was he then took the volume of the guitar all the way down. Now, the instrument still thinks the guitar is on, so what is it going to let it do? It's going to let it glide. Okay, so if I bring the guitar down, all I'm hearing there is the piano, okay? But it should glide the piano. And I want to say that's probably exactly what happened. And whenever you can put two sounds on one level, there is a likelihood, and this is not just an Inspire thing. This could be done on the Odyssey. It can be done on the, I think it can be done on the Easy 10. I know it can be done on the Fanfare and the Journey. You have volumes for the instruments over on the right-hand side. If they're not directly next to the choice, they're in your feature screen. So what he did is he kind of tricked, inadvertently it appears to me, tricked the instrument into thinking there were two sounds on, because the instrument doesn't know, it doesn't really know anything, it's just following directions, but when the guitar is chosen, that's what's going to allow it to glide. It doesn't take into account how loud it is, it just knows, okay, it's on, so I'm going to let the instrument glide because the guitar can do that. That's why some are allowed to do it and some aren't, because it's meant to be realistic. And so they let you do it with sounds that can actually accomplish that. And so, as I said, my assumption, I can't really think of any other way he could have done it, that's why I think it's a fairly strong assumption, is that he was playing around with his volumes, he turned the volume of the instrument that can glide all the way down, left the other one all the way up, which was the piano, and then he realized, well, I can glide with the piano, I'm not supposed to be able to do that. So we kind of tricked the instrument in a way. Yes, Mark?
Now the opposite, if you did the opposite, would it sustain the guitar?
If you
Turn the
brought
piano
the
down
piano
with the guitar.
down and I don't know. We'll see. I don't think so. I don't think so.
Hmm.
And I say that because, well, you know what? We can try something here. Let me see. So if we bring the piano all the way down, bring the guitar all the way up, and nope, still glides. Yep. It's still gliding. The piano's still on. Now, I do want to try something. I don't know how this is going to work, but we'll try it. It may have something to do with the fact that the guitar is in the orchestra 1 and the piano's in orchestra 2. So what if we swap those out here? I don't know what the answer is going to be, so we'll find out together. Okay, so here's the piano and the guitar together. So now your question was, if I turn the piano down, will the guitar sustain instead of glide? It will. Okay, and so what that leads us, see, I learned something new as well. What that leads us, I guess, to see is that whatever is in the first choice, which on here would be orchestra 1, on here it would be the one that's not flashing. You know, you can have one that flashes, one that doesn't. Well, the one that doesn't flash is the one that flashes rather is the second choice. The one that you hit first is the primary one. That one, apparently, is the one that is the deciding factor as to whether something can glide or sustain. That's a great question. Yeah, I didn't know that. Well, that's what I like about these lessons. When I don't know what I'm going to cover, I sometimes cover stuff that I don't know myself. So again, I don't know. He lives on the other side of the country. I don't know whether that's what he did, but I'm assuming I couldn't figure any other way that could be done other than that. And it is reminiscent to me about something that I've long taught in regards to tricking the instrument. You know, we speak about, you know, how the instrument will do a lot of things for you. Well, you can trick it to do some things which, in my opinion, are very beneficial for you. So, for example, on all of your instruments, you have a button that either says style setup or rhythm preset. They are one and the same. They do the exact same thing. Okay. Now, if that button is on, which on all of your instruments, it will be on unless you hit some buttons to turn it off. So if that button is on, and let's say I decide that I want to play just the right and the left hand and the easy button, but I want to play something like Marianne, pick an easy Latin song. Well, I might think, oh, you know, I'd like to have some kind of Latin instruments, maybe the vibes or the clarinet or something, you know, something that would sound good, flamenco guitar or something like that. But if I just hit my easy button, that's not going to give me those sounds. I'd have to go up here and reach for them. Okay? You can trick your instrument, and this is true on everything from the Easy 2, the Easy 3, all the way up to the aria. So everything in the Lowry line. I'm going to choose Latin, and then I'm going to turn it off. Now what I just did was I assigned Latin sounds to the top keyboard and the bottom keyboard. It didn't know I was going to turn off the Latin button. It just said, oh, you want to play Latin? Let me give you some Latin instruments. And then you said, never mind. It retains those instruments. So now I can put the easy button back on. I can play on both levels, something like Marianne, and have at least a couple Latin-based instruments. So it's a really cool feature. I could do the same thing with any rhythm. If I, you know, country, turn on the country, turn it off. Easy button on, any country song. So it's, I've tricked the instrument. So I'm doing something in a way very similar to what we just learned we can do with the glide as well, as you're taking advantage of it making choices for you, and then you're saying, you know, never mind. I'm gonna do it my own way. So that way you can just play with the chords and the notes and not have to worry about a beat, but still have some nice supportive sounds. Okay? All right. Question time. Go ahead. Of course, go ahead.
John, let's see, I think I had this organ the longest that I had any organ.
Okay.
And so now I'm looking at it more closely and what have you. And I noticed this week that over on the right-hand side, the music recorder.
Yes.
On the music recorder.
Mhm.
All right, well, to the left of that is the upper tab and the lower tab. What the heck is that tab? What does that do?
The upper tab and the lower tab on the right side of the recorder.
On the
You know what I'm just
on the
realizing?
left-hand side of the recorder. On
Hold
the
on.
recording.
On the left hand, upper and
The
lower
upper tab.
over this?
Yeah, that.
That, okay, I will go over that. I'm just realizing that I don't have our microphone out. So I don't know if anybody can hear me. I don't know if they've been able to hear me this whole time. But we'll see. Okay. We're going to have a little echo here for just a moment. Let me see here. What's the volume of the mic? I want to get rid of my... That's not it. You may have to hear me with some reverb here.
You sound nice that way.
It does. It's very, it makes it sound like whatever I'm saying is very important. How's that? Better. Okay. All right, so hello, everybody, maybe for the first time. We didn't go over anything important yet, so you haven't missed a thing. Okay, so Bert, your question is in regards to the button to the left-hand side of the recorder, and that button says upper tabs to lower right. Okay, now, the first thing that I want you to notice about that is I want you to answer for me the question as to whether that button is in the rectangle for the recorder itself. Okay, so what does that mean? The fact that it's not in the rectangle.
That has nothing to do with
It has nothing to do with the recorder. Okay, so at least we're on the same page there. So it has nothing to do with that. Okay, they had to put it somewhere, so they put it there, but it's outside of that rectangle, which means it has no connection to the recorder at all. What that button does, and like many buttons on Lowry's, the name of the button is so obvious that it makes you almost overthink what the answer is. What that does is it takes... You still work? Okay. It takes your upper tabs and it puts them on the lower right. So all of these organ sounds that are here, so anything from this red button that way, I can put here, or by hitting this button, I can put them here. Okay, so it's a benefit because on a lot of Lowry's, your organ tabs, meaning your 2-foot flute, your 4-foot flute, pipe organ's got a tab, jazz organ oftentimes, has a tab. Those can, on many Lowry's, only play on the top keyboard. So by hitting that button, you're taking those sounds and you're giving yourself the opportunity to put them down on the bottom. Again, they name it so obvious, I think, that we overthink it,
So when the light goes on that,
Mm-hmm.
then it means it's on. It will go on.
It means that anything in that tabbed section above it will be on the bottom as opposed to the top. Okay. All right. Yes, Mark. What? Hold on.
Okay.
I'll get you next.
In connection with earlier, you were talking about you could put the easy button on and then you could play. You'd be able to play those sounds that you.
Right.
If you hit the Broadway button and then change the sounds to go to a different set of sounds for Broadway, then turn it off, will that still work?
Meaning if I hit Broadway and let's say I hit number 4.
Yeah.
So if I hit, we'll find out. So we're gonna hit Broadway. Style setup's on. We're gonna hit Broadway. And we'll go to number 4, which says strings and flugelhorn. Now the question is, if we turn Broadway off, will that sound change? And the answer is no, it will not.
Still got flugelhorn.
It will still be strings here and flugelhorn here. Now, if I start hitting different numbers, it's not going to have the same thing on them that it did when Broadway was on.
So now if you hit the same setup button.
So yeah, if I turn this off and turn it back on, it's not going to have the same thing on it. So I turn it off, I turn it back on, and it's something different. Okay, but yes, if I hit a number and then I turn Broadway off, it will retain that until I do something else. But in order to get another number related to that style, I would have to hit it again. Okay. Another question. Go ahead, Bert.
Now, with the music recorder,
Yes.
the whole section,
Mm-hmm.
I found that when I'm recording and I've come to an end of a piece
Mm-hmm.
and I want to, make it go slower.
Slow down
I
the
slow down.
slow down the tempo.
No, not the tempo, the sound. To decrease
Vo-
the sound.
It's volume. Okay.
Volume.
Okay.
All right. It won't do that. So if I'm recording and I want to, and I'm recording.
Okay.
All right. And now I am now and coming to my end of my piece.
Mhm.
So I lift the volume pedal up.
Okay.
All right. Now when I stop, turn it off, and then I want to record, and then
You want to play it back.
I play it back. It does not. The volume does not.
So that's a great question.
I told
Okay.
you to.
That's a good question. There is a way that you can put that in the recording as well, and it has nothing to do with your foot. Okay. So on your instrument, if you hit both of your intro and ending buttons at the same time, it says fade. So instead of doing it with the foot, you'd actually hit both of those together. It'll fade it away, nothing to do with your foot, and that will be retained in the recording.
What's happening to me though, I'm finding that when I hit the stop and the intro button together,
Yeah.
the second button won't go on. The stop won't go on. So
But you don't want to hit stop. You want to hit intro ending.
I have to.
You want to hit both of
yeah.
these two purple buttons at the same time. Those two. And that will fade it away. So if you're using any beat,
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
okay? So you're recording, you're done with your song, you hit both of those together.
Yeah. Now, many times that second button will not go on. I have to play with it. So that means there's something going on.
It means that you may not have hit them at the same time.
Oh. But even sometimes when I just want to end it, the light won't go on either. I have to play with it a couple of times. I swear at it and everything, but nothing happens.
I mean, it should, if you hit it, if you're not trying to fade it away anyhow.
Is that because the two fingers are shorter than one longer than the
I
other?
don't know, maybe. I don't know.
That could be, all right.
Some people use one finger in a nose,
Yeah.
you know, so.
I have another one too.
Okay, does anybody else, before I let Bert just take over the class? Okay, go ahead.
Our song this week was in my song setup.
Okay.
Okay, and don't ask me what the instruments were because I didn't bring my thing. But anyway, I got my my glide on fine, and it was sounding really good. And I put the top on duet.
Okay.
Didn't sound real duetty to me, but I even tried it on. I tried it on every kind of thing, but didn't sound like when you do it. But my bottom instrument is not the same as my top one.
Mhm.
So I wanted to get my bottom like my top, and you know I never can figure that out.
Okay, so
I
you are
know that.
by far not the only person that had that question that has this instrument. And it again is something that is done a little bit differently on, from instrument to instrument. On yours, it's another one of those things that is almost so simple that you overthink it.
I know.
Okay, so let me show you. So Sleepwalk is our song, right?
Yeah.
So let me go ahead and we'll start there. So we'll go to the song setup here for Sleepwalk. So Marsha's question for those of you in TV land there is she's looking to figure out the fastest way to get the same sound on both levels. And it's pretty simple on here. So there's my song. Okay. So now you're looking for this sound down there. Right now, it ain't there. Okay. So the first thing you want to do is you want to turn off what is down there. So how do I turn off what's down there? Well, I need to see what is on down there, and the way I'm able to tell what's on down there is I look for any button right now that says lower right. And if it says lower right, meaning lower level right hand side, turn it off. Okay, so there are 2 buttons, 1, 2, done. Now how can I tell that I've removed everything from the lower right? What's going to happen? Okay, and when I do play on the lower right, what's going to come out?
Chord, tempo.
You're going to get a chord all the way up, okay? Because by removing anything from the lower level, you have basically removed the split. So your chord's all the way up the keys, okay? That would be the same thing even on the Easy 3. If I turned off everything in my right hand, I'd have chords all the way up the keys. So by virtue of me choosing something in the right hand, it has created that point of split, that split point, okay? Right now, I should not have a split point. So if I hit anything, wait, Bill, can you hit the highest key over there? You got a B, which is exactly what we're looking for right now, okay? All right, so then we say, where is this sound coming from? Well, that's coming from the 1 button here that says upper. So how do I get it down on the bottom? I stay in the same box and I just do that.
Oh my God. Jeez.
See how easy it is? Okay, so now I have the same sound here that I have there. Simple as that. And you just make sure you put your duet on in the upper or lower. On yours, you can do it either way. So I've had just as many students play the duet on the bottom and then none on the top, and then I've had just as many do it the other way. So it's a matter of you have the opportunity to put it on either level. On every instrument lower than this, it can only be on the top. So they're playing mostly on the bottom, and then they go up to the top for the duet. But it's one of those things that once you see it, it's like, oh gosh, how could I not have figured that out? It's so simple, but it's 1 button. So the first step is make sure there's nothing on the lower keyboard. And then the second step is just make sure that in your instance, that same box has upper and lower on it. Now, on here it's a little different. Not much, a little bit, okay? So on here, if I, again, chose any song, let's say I wanted the standards beat, right now it's trombone on the top, piano on the bottom, okay? So I'm gonna get rid of the piano. I'm just gonna hit the brass button, turn it off and turn it back on. Well, actually, I don't even have to do that, but that just got rid of the piano totally. And so now I have trombone here, and I have trombone here. So 1 sound on both levels. So it's really not that, it's not as hard as a lot of students make it out to be.
It was hard for me.
Yeah, no, that's keeps me employed. That's fine. Yes, Mark.
Are the keyboards set to the same note, or are they offset?
That particular one is. This particular one, I don't know. I'm gonna take a look and see. No. So these are offset, which means this note right now equates to this note, but there again is a 1 button way to fix that. Okay.
Yeah.
All the way over on the right hand side where it says lower right, you have a button that says octave down. Right now the octave down is on. So if I turn that off, now this and this line up. There's just 1 button. And oftentimes it's 1 button. It's not always, but it's very common for it to be a 1 button fix, and we just kind of overthink it sometimes. Okay. Any other questions? Oh, I did have one. Oh, no, go ahead.
On the vowel,
Yeah.
if you put if you wanted to 4/4 beat,
Yes.
and you put the smooth button on
Mhm.
the left,
Yep.
it gives you like a rhythm, and
Mhm.
not just the beat, and it tends to throw me off to try to play it. Is
Right.
it-
So I guess you need to define what your idea of a beat is. In other words, when I hear that question a lot, I hear students say that their understanding of a beat is drums, and that's what they are anticipating hearing. They're not anticipating hearing a lot of other stuff. Okay, so if you're just looking for a drummer in the background, it would be a matter of, after you hit smooth or rock or anything like that, one, make sure your drums are on, because some of the beats that you'll choose, particularly under pianist and guitarist, those don't have drums unless you bring them back in. So, you know, that's, I guess, step number one is make sure there's drums there to begin with. And then it's just a matter of turning other things that you may find distracting down. So, for example, if I turn on that smooth rhythm and I turn down the bass and I turn down the accompaniment and I hit start, that's all I'm going to hear. I'm not going to hear anything more than that. Now, with all of those things in there, it would have sounded like this. So that's one of the benefits that you have, is that it's not like, you know, $100, $200, even upwards. I haven't really seen a distinction, even upwards of like $400 or $500, until you get into like synthesizers, which are about, you know, comparable in price to these, where you can really go in and edit the way the backgrounds sound. A lot of just the regular, you know, tabletop keyboards that are, you know, frankly, the ones that I have here, you know, $100, $200, the rhythms often are just kind of take it or leave it beats. You can't go in and say, you know, I don't like this, I'd like to bring this up or bring this down. You know, if something's in that less than $500 range, usually the rhythms are kind of set. They call them canned rhythms. So basically just plop them in there and that's the way they sound. Fortunately for you, yours doesn't do that. So it's a matter of deciding, I guess, first what you find distracting, and then just bringing that. Maybe you don't bring it all the way down, but maybe down a little bit.
So the bass and the accompaniment?
The bass and the accompaniment are going to be the primary sounds, I would imagine, that you may find a bit distracting. Okay. One other question I can remember now from I guess this would have been last buttons class that we did in January. I don't remember who it was, but we had 3 emailed questions, and I can remember, unfortunately, one of the 2 that I didn't get to. But it was in regards to on instruments with tabs. So I guess, I don't remember if they had an Inspire. They could have had an Aria or a Rialto or something like that. Sterling has the tabs like that. I don't remember what they had, but their question was talking about an easy way to add the tabs in basically all at once, because you can put a bunch of these tabs on. So I can put this one on, that one on, this one on. You can hit a bunch of different tabs, and they wanted, you know, they're looking for, let's say you wanted the 2, the 8, and the 16. Now we'll even say the 4. So 4 tabs. They wanted a way to put those all on at one time, and I don't know if they didn't want to memorize, because you could do that, but there is a way to do that. And it also is, the answer to the question is a reason why, for some of you that have tabs, maybe you've run into this before, where you've hit them and you didn't hear them. You know, you went to add something in and said, oh, I don't hear these being added in at all. So in this tabbed section, you have one button that is a different color than everything else. Right in the middle, it's called upper tabs, and it's red. This controls all of those. So I can hit as many of those as I want, and if this is off, I'm not going to hear them. Okay? Now, as soon as I hit it, they all activate all at once. So if you ever run into the issue of hitting these buttons and you don't hear a difference in the sound or a sound at all, make sure that upper tabs button is on, and that should be your solution. So that was basically, he was saying, I'd like to add like 4 of these things on at once, but I want to do this, and I don't want to memorize it either. Is there a way to do it without doing that? And it's just, that almost mutes those buttons if you want to think of it that way. If that's off, doesn't matter how many buttons over there are on, they're not going to work. So you can hit as many as you want. You can basically get them ready to go. So you can hit like 5 buttons, make sure that's off, and then when you want them on, you just hit it, they all turn on. I know you got another one.
Me?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Did I talk you into it?
Yeah, okay, you twist my arm. John, in class you mentioned about the pedal on the left-hand side.
Yep.
For the pedals on the floor, and then of course the pedal button.
Yeah.
And when you said you push that on, that you got the sound of you got your chord, but also you got the sound of the foot pedal in that chord? Was I correct in that?
Say this again?
When you push, like say you push you push the pedal down. All right, so that means the
volume or the glide?
No, the tab I get
When you say push the pedal down?
Yeah. When
This.
you push that down. No. I mean, can I come up?
Yeah.
The pedal. Where'd the pedal go? With the foot.
This pedal magic?
Pedal magic.
Okay.
All right. That's what I'm talking about. The
Okay.
pedal magic. When you push that on.
Yep.
That means that pedal, that whatever chord you play here, that is going to be playing. Like you play the F chord here, it's going to play the F chord on the pedal. That's going to show the pedal.
Well, that would do that no matter whether that was on or off.
Whether it's off or around.
That's what your easy button does.
Right. Now, also, you said the pedal magic. You could if you hit if you wanted to hit a C or a G chord, you could just hit any pedal down there and it'll play the G chord.
That's a little bit different. So I think I can answer you.
Sorry.
So Bert's question is in regards, I think, to something that is a bit unrelated to your question, but what you have on your instrument is something called pedal recognition. Pedal recognition does not come from pedal magic. Pedal recognition is found in your features. Now, what pedal recognition gives you the ability to do is to play the left hand chord with your foot. So in other words, I'll give you a great example. This is something that from time to time I work with Gil on, because Gil doesn't have much use of his left hand, okay? And it's unfortunately kind of a common thing, when you're teaching seniors, things come up like, unfortunately, strokes, and what does that often affect? It affects your left side. And with him, unfortunately, did the same thing. And, they came up, I don't want to say that it was primarily for that reason, but I think it's a great reason to utilize that pedal recognition. So if that's on, and I don't remember what page it's on, but we can find it fairly easily here. Okay, so it's on page 7 on this instrument. It's called pedals. So I'm going to touch that. I'm going to turn on what we call pedal recognition. Okay, and now I'm going to turn the feature off. Now, this should... I just played a C with my left foot. I can play a G with my left foot as well. Here's an F. So what it's done is it saved me from actually having to use my left hand at all, at least for major chords. Now, for minors, either you can hit 2 pedals, which I wouldn't necessarily do that, or you can say, well, 1 pedal and then maybe 1 finger. Maybe you can't create a whole chord, but maybe you can, kind of play 1 finger here. So it's given a lot of students that have had issues that have related to their left hand kind of a new lease on playing. So you can just step on the pedal that you need. and and you can get a chord for the first time instead of just a tone, which is what usually happens with the pedal. So that basically turns that lower level into a keyboard. It's different than Pedal Magic. Pedal Magic is different. Pedal Recognition, I know they both say pedal because they both have to do with the pedals, but Pedal Recognition is a little bit different than Pedal Magic. I don't know if that was your question at all. I'm just trying, I feel like it was. I feel like that was the direction you were going.
Well, then I thought you said that you could play you could play you could play a melody,
Yeah.
and then you had to you wanted to play a chord that would coincide with it, and you wanted to play the C chord, but you can't find the C pedal. You could just push.
Okay,
any
so
pedal.
that's Pedal Magic.
Pedal Magic.
So Pedal Magic is like an easy button for your foot. So now every instrument that Lowrey made, starting with the Easy 10 and up. So Easy 10, Fanfare, Journey, Inspire, Rialto, all the way up to the Aria, have a feature on them called Pedal Magic. And what Pedal Magic gives you the ability to do is to attempt playing your foot pedals, but it will, if you will, fix mistakes. So one feature, and there's a couple different options, but one is called Get Close, which means that if you push a pedal down and you accidentally hit the wrong one, but it's close to the right one, it's going to override the one you hit and make it sound like the right one. Okay. So it's as I said, it's like an easy button in a way where it assists you, because frankly a lot of students don't use these pedals, and so this was their, I guess, approach at trying to make them more approachable. They've long found that aside from dusting the pedals every now and again, people didn't really use them. And so they had started doing things like giving the pedals other functions. That's why you can put the glide on pedals now. You can put the sustain on pedals now, which the sustain I think is great, because if I'm playing a piano-based song, it's much more historically accurate for me to sustain by pushing a pedal down, because that's how you sustain on a piano. You push down a pedal. And so rather than having used that glide switch that we spoke about before that can also sustain, you just step on a pedal. And that's historically how you would glide. You would rather sustain on a piano anyhow. So, it would be a matter of going into that Pedal Magic, putting it on, glide, sustain, choosing a sound that can sustain. I use the pedal just like I would on a regular piano. I can use any one of the pedals, which is kind of nice, but that's how I was taught how to sustain on a piano. So this is more accurate.
I thought the Pedal Magic was that I could play a melody and just hit any pedal on my foot, and it would play the chord, the right chord.
Well, no. You have to. You would have to, if you're using Pedal Recognition, you have to play the right chord. You have to play the right pedal rather. And if you're using Pedal Magic, you don't have to play the right pedal, but you have to play the chord in the left hand, and then the pedal would match it no matter which pedal you used. So yeah, no, you can't, and that makes sense, because how would the instrument know what chord needs to be played in some random song? The instrument doesn't know what song you're playing. You know what I mean? And so it couldn't do that.
I just thought it would coordinate with the like if you're playing a C,
Yeah.
it would just play the C chord.
Well, I mean, if Pedal Magic will do that, but you have to be playing a C chord. You have to be playing a C chord in your left hand in order to hit a pedal and make it sound like a C no matter what. But the pedal magic would have to be on, but you still have to play your left hand.
But can you hear the both? Can you hear the difference? If you don't have the pedal if you don't play the pedal
Mm-hmm.
and you play the C and then you play.
If your easy button is on, the pedal's going to play for you anyways.
Oh, okay. So it's always playing when you.
Always playing. The
Oh,
easy
alright,
button
that's
makes
what
the pedal plays
that's what I
regardless.
couldn't quite figure
Which is
out.
why most people don't play to begin with.
All right.
Okay. How are we doing on time? I didn't wear my watch today,
5
unfortunately.
more minutes.
Okay. I know you have a question. I understand that. I'm well aware that you probably have another hour's worth of questions, Bert.
I really don't have a life. I
Does,
told
any,
you my
does,
mortgage.
does anybody have any other questions besides Bert before I just let him take over here? Go ahead.
I did find it interesting. I'm looking at the repeat slide. Yeah, you can set the slide speed
On the Clavinova.
on the journey too.
On the journey as well?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, it's number 9, feature 9.
I know that you can. Oh yeah, you can. You're right.
Yeah, it doesn't.
On the solo instruments.
Yeah, on the
So it says solo slide speed, which leads me to believe that it doesn't work with your orchestral sounds. So it would have to be something from the blue button there. Yeah.
single
Yeah.
instrument.
Yeah, that's interesting. I knew that feature was would allow you to decide how fast the song, the instrument repeats.
Yeah.
I didn't realize you could do it with the slide. I'm learning a lot of new stuff today. This is great. Good. Any other questions?
You and me.
I'll just let Bert keep asking questions. I just feel guilty. I don't want to take time away from anybody else. Anybody have any other questions? I have no problem answering all of your questions. I just want to make sure I give everybody the opportunity. All right, go ahead.
Over on the top right hand in the silver section.
Yep.
I understand the 2 octave buttons. I understand that. Those 2 octave buttons.
Okay.
The upper octave. But then
Okay.
down below it's got the lower right.
Yep.
And I'm just wondering, now there's the octave, and then next to that button there's a black button, that SPX. So I thought that might be SP something, and I thought that might be sex, but I don't think so.
Okay. No, so that's not what. This is why I don't hand out the microphone. So they didn't hear that. So that stands for sound effects. So when you turn that button on, and you go to your lower right-hand side, about the first octave of notes are going to give you various sound effects that you can either assign yourself, you can change what's on those buttons, or you can use what's there. So, for example, well, the ballads are chosen here. So if I do this, and I come over here, and I hit various keys over here, you're going to hear different sound effects. And now we're down. So it's an octave worth of keys, okay? So as you go through, again, there's your bird, and you can assign different sounds to those keys. So if I go to lower sound effects, you can assign each key to a certain sound. So let's say we were to do this, and I'm going to scroll. I'm going to scroll to. I guess I'm running out of battery here. I'm going to scroll to a different sound. Okay. So I've just stopped on machine gun. Okay. And I'm going to assign the machine gun to a key. Oh, I thought I was here. Hold on. Come on. you playing for me? Where are you? All right, that's off. Let's do this. Do this. Okay. All right. So I can put different sounds on there. And you'll notice that some of them come up in your song setup. I don't know if you realize that or not.
Right.
Okay. So if you go to one of my favorite ones is this song.
Tequila. As much as they can make it say tequila anyways. So they say 2, 3,
2, 3.
But if you play it quickly, it sounds like tequila.
All right.
I
So
can, I can drive my cat crazy now.
yeah, I mean there are a variety. I can remember Paul Schaub. What I was trying to do, and I couldn't set it up quickly, but Paul Schaub used to do a whole skit with the sound effects, and he used to do the machine gun and then the rooster, and he used to say, "I just played Bye Bye Birdie for you." Anyhow, any other questions?
That's it. I'm drowning.
I don't know what we would do if you weren't here. We just probably just stare at each other for an hour. I mean, it's
Nobody's indispensable.
well, we have already set our buttons class for next month, and it's going to be on March 28th. So it will be another Saturday. It will be at 11 o'clock as well. Please do not feel as if you have to wait until then to ask questions. I am more apt to answer questions like these in a private lesson or this type of lesson as opposed to the group lesson, because we got to go over the music and I got to have you play and all of that stuff as well. We only have so much time. So if you have questions in the interim, feel free to make a lesson come in. Obviously, you can email. Those of you that are watching, you can always send us an email, go to the website or what have you, and you know, I'll try to answer them, you know, in one of these sessions if you'd like to, you know, to get a visual answer as well as an audible one. Other than that, thanks for coming, everybody.
Thank you.
You're welcome. We'll see you next week.
Don't forget to turn the heat on before you get
Oh,
frost
thank
on
you.
the keys.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Did you win anything? It's probably working outside. Did you?
No.
Did you win?
All right.
I always